Hello, I'm so glad you could join us. Today we're going to be talking about buying and selling a car, for sale by owner, and other considerations. This video goes hand in hand with another video we recently did called Buying and Selling a Car, What to Expect at the Dealership. If you put the two together, you'll have all your bases covered. Of course, we always recommend that you sit down with a professional that knows the details of your situation before making any major financial decisions like entering into a loan agreement, purchasing insurance or investments, or anything along those lines. That way, the advice you receive will be custom tailored to you. The big picture considerations we want to talk about first today really apply to whether you're buying a car at a dealership or from an individual, and they also apply whether it's a new car or a used car. The first is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the cost of the opportunity lost were you to do something else with the money, like invest and save for retirement or pay down debt. This doesn't mean you shouldn't buy a car, but considering the average new car payment is about $550 a month over a 5 to 6 year period, and the average used car payment is around $400 over the same time period, when you run the numbers, you may decide to spend a little bit less for your car. Then there's the depreciation cost that must be considered. Depreciation happens throughout the life of a car, but it's most dramatic in the first couple of years. For example, the average new car is going to lose between 10 and 15% the moment you drive it off the lot, simply because it's titled and is now considered a used car. In the first 2 years, the average new car loses between 30 and 35%. We don't often recognize this cost until we go to sell the car a few years later. Then there's the cost of insurance. It's a great idea to reach out to your insurance agent and ask about the average price to insure the vehicles you're most interested in buying. That's because there's a lot of factors that can greatly change this. Things like, is it a convertible? Is it considered a sports car? Is it a four-wheel drive or is it a two-wheel drive? Is it a full-size car or a compact car? What's the cost of repair were you to be in an accident? Is it a type of vehicle that thieves most often target for one reason or another? All of these come into play when it comes to the cost of insurance. And then there's the overall total cost of ownership, which includes all of these things, as well as how reliable is the car? How often does it need to be repaired? What's the average cost of routine maintenance and repair? What type of tires does it require? When you get an oil change, does it require a special type of oil? What type of gas does it require? What kind of gas mileage does it get? All of these are big considerations in terms of the overall cost of the car as you are owning it. And then there's the question about whether or not you should lease a vehicle. Well, sometimes leases make sense, just like sometimes it makes sense to rent a home instead of buying one. But if you are considering leasing, you need to ask about what the acquisition fee is. This is the administrative cost just to enter into the lease agreement. And then ask what the overage fees are, the mileage fees. How many miles a year are you allowed to drive the car during the lease? A lot of people, when they go to turn their car in at the end of the lease, are very surprised by the amount of money they owe, hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars, because they drove the car more miles each year than was allowed. You also want to inquire about the damage fees and what's considered something other than regular wear and tear, because you'd have to pay for that too. And then you also want to ask if there's a termination fee. What happens if you turn the car in before the lease is up? How much is that going to cost you? And then very often you see these low lease payment advertisements. Well, what type of down payment is required in order to get a low monthly lease payment like that? Now let's talk about some things to keep in mind when you're buying a car from an individual. The first is you might consider buying one that's 2 years old or older. That way you can get a great car with low mileage and save a ton of money in the process, because the 30 to 35% depreciation that happens in the first 2 years has already occurred. Then identify the makes and models of the vehicles you're most interested in, and you can go online and find the average NADA used car value or the KBB Kelley Blue Book value by going to those websites, and you're looking for the average retail and the average wholesale value for the vehicles that you're most interested in. Now, you may not be able to get the vehicle at a wholesale value, but you're trying to stay somewhere in between retail and wholesale when you're buying from an individual, and that can help you narrow down the ones that you decide to call about. You can search online at sites like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Autotrader.com, and other places that have cars that are for sale by owner as well as for sale by dealership. Then simply start making phone calls and vet the prospects. When you're on the phone with someone who's selling a car, if something doesn't feel right, follow your gut. Trust your gut. Go on to the next one. There's plenty out there. And then when you go look at the vehicles, if there's one you really like, don't hesitate to offer less than the asking price. All I can do is say no, and if you happen to be paying cash, that's even better. Something happens when you offer cash. I think it's the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush type principle, but people's eyes get wide, they start to salivate, the heart races, and you're often able to get an even better deal when you're paying cash. So we talked about things to keep in mind when you're buying a car from an individual. Let's talk about some things that will be very helpful when you're selling your vehicle. You could always trade it in at a car lot if you're going to be making your car purchase at a car lot, but keep in mind, when you trade a car in at a car lot, you're probably only going to be getting wholesale value in the best case scenario. That's because car dealerships can find a car just like yours any day of the week at any number of wholesale auctions, and so it's very rare that they would give you more than that for your trade-in. When you're selling to an individual, you're much more likely to get closer to retail value. The first thing we would suggest is to clean it up, inside and out. Make it shine. You'd be surprised how many people go to sell their car, but they don't take the time to clean it first. And so the prospective buyer is looking at a car that has trash on the seats, the McDonald's wrappers are on the floorboard, the French fries, there's dirt on the outside. That's not a good look, and it often will make it feel like you've not taken good care of your car, even if you have. So clean it inside and out. Also tighten anything that's loose. The last thing you want is for someone to drive it down the road and to be hearing a bunch of rattles. So if you have that, figure out where it's coming from, tighten it down. Also ensure that all the lights work. If someone looks at it after dark and you turn the lights on, you don't want to have a headlight out or a tail light. Again, it looks like you haven't taken care of the car. When you pop the hood, make sure all of your fluids are topped off. If your wiper blades need changing, go ahead and do that. You don't want someone to look at it when it's raining and then the windshield wipers be smearing the stuff all over the windshield. Again, that's not a good look. Gather your maintenance records. Nothing impresses a potential buyer like a stack of maintenance records that they can see at a glance, wow, this car has really been taken care of. And then, of course, have your title handy too and be prepared to exchange it for cash or cashier's check. So those are some things to do to get your car ready to sell. Now let's talk about actually selling it. And the first thing you want to do, just like when you're buying a car, know the used car value. Go to the NADA Price Guide site. Go to the KBB, Kelley Blue Book site. Know the average retail value and the average wholesale value. That will let you know how to price your car and what you're really trying to get for it. Then post it on those same online classifieds that you would go to if you were looking to buy a car. Most of them are free, so you can do that very easily. And then if you're concerned about having to show it all day, every day, and you don't want to do that, you could try what I call a 2-hour showing. And the way that works is every time somebody calls you and they want to look at your car, just say, great, I'm so glad you're interested. I'm going to be showing it this Sunday from 1 to 3 at the Walmart in the front of the parking lot. Meet me there. And then everybody that calls, you tell them the same thing. Come Sunday at 1 o'clock, as people start coming to look at the car, you not only will have saved time, but if they show up at the same time, more than one person to look at the car, you've just created a bidding war, and you might get top dollar for your car because everyone's thinking, oh my goodness, if I don't go ahead and offer what this person wants right now, I might lose it. And so that works to your advantage. And then, of course, as we said, only take cash or a cashier's check. And you'll want to meet the person at their bank if they're giving you a cashier's check so that you can go inside and see that it's actually being issued and everything's above board. At that point, that's when you're ready to exchange cash or cashier's check for your title. Well, I hope this has been helpful information. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your financial advisor or stop by your local Pinnacle office.